highlighted the role of women in ICT. Join me to welcome on stage Dr. Atsuko Okuda, Head of ITU Asia Pacific, Mei Lee, Solution and Marketing VP, Huawei, Middle East Career Business Group, Dr. Nadine Akkari, Associate Professor, Jeddah International College, KSA, and Dr. Linda Kassem, Senior Policy and Legal Advisor, Lead Trade Negotiator, Sylvia Anampiu, Managing Director, MTN GlobalConnect Kenya, Jamal Najem, Program Director, DUE, and the moderator, Rana Hajir, Communication Technology Group, MEA, HPE. Welcome on stage, ladies.
Welcome, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start by thanking Mr. Tony Aid for suggesting to host this panel and, of course, the Telecom Review Summit to Family. Usually, this topic is discussed in gender-inclusive councils or even conferences where the majority of the attendees are women and hardly any representatives from the ICT sector. And I feel to truly make a difference, we need to address this issue in summits like these, where the majority of the attendees are from the ICT sector and amongst the leaders of the ICT sector within the region. I'm very excited about this panel because our esteemed panelists come from different backgrounds. We have the regulatory, the policy makers, we have the vendors, the telecom operators. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. We're going to discuss the role of women in pushing the ICT agenda, the value adds that women will bring to the table, and I promise we're going to have to address the elephant in the room. Are we truly inclusive when it comes to gender balance? And the ladies are going to be kind enough to share with us their personal experiences, challenges, and words of wisdom for future generations. So without further ado, you're not here to hear me speak. I would like to commence our panel, and I would like to start with Dr. Atsuko. So welcome. And I'm really honored to be here. Everyone who knows me, they know this is a very dear topic to my heart. From a policy and a regulator point of view, what is your vision or ambition when it comes to digital transformation?
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank Telecom Review to invite me to this very important session. We are very excited, I think I can say on behalf of everyone, to discuss and perhaps share some of the ideas and learn from each other. Now, I want to perhaps start with what Leslie was saying. It was funny, but I think many of us have similar experience that I wish I designed it so that it doesn't happen this way. And I think she, summarized it in a way of saying that it's a pocket. And I also have similar experience that I have, found pockets in the end. Now, she also mentioned that it's very important for women at the table. It is absolutely true. I can't find enough ICT leaders in Asia and the Pacific, and I constantly struggle to recruit an ICT leaders who are women for my office. But I hope that as a vision moving forward, I think perhaps we can go beyond and come back to the pocket. Because I think, in my mind, her pocket can really present an opportunity. Perhaps that will trigger a new technology which is very disruptive. And why can't we lead that digital transformation moving forward so that we don't have to worry about pocket, but it actually leads something amazing that will lead us to inclusive and more sustainable digital transformation. So I hope that perhaps, in this panel, we will have some of these discussions, and I hope that I'm not too revolutionary when I said that, but I look forward to a very active discussion today.
Nothing revolutionary about this discussion. We're no filter. So. May, from a vendor point of view, when it comes to digital transformation, what's your vision?
My thinking of this is coming from a telecom vendor background, is that particularly you can see the amount of female engineers and the girls actually involved in the digital transformation is a relatively lower number. So I think most of the girls can share this kind of thinking. Traditionally, telecom business is always very male-dominated, and I was told quite early days, so you want to excel, you have to be a man. So your self-description is a kind of saying a lot about the industry. However, it's changing now. So from a lot of the policies, regulations, initiatives being set as a company, we constantly encourage more girls to become the tech leader and to participate in the digital transformation. But at the same time, we recognize that there's a gap, as the doctor just said, that it's really hard to recruit a lot of the girls. That's the indication of that. There's some fundamental base we had to resolve, which means to encourage women to participate in the ICT studying, encourage the girls to be interested in the tech field because it's a fabulous field, so you can participate. And also encourage them to join the R&D part of that, to innovate, to develop their idea. Mind you, my great the model of me in my life is a Hedy Lamarr, if you know that. She was a glamorous film star in 1940, but she was also an inventor who invented frequency hopping, then patented that in the early days, which is a foundation technology for the Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and the GPS. So from girls' perspective, you don't have to be thinking about making the business in the glamorous model or this kind of things is a traditional choice for the girls, but also thinking about what you're interested in that and encourage that, study that to become a tech leader.
Thank you, May. Sylvia, from an operator point of view, what's your vision when it comes to digital transformation?
Thank you, Rana. Just to put some context to this, Africa's population is the fastest growing across the world and a very young population at that. We, as an operator, we've been working together with leading carriers and hyperscalers to bring connectivity into Africa. As MTN GlobalConnect, we've invested in submarine cables, as well as built terrestrial fiber across our markets. Our vision and where we see ourselves going is to continue building terrestrial connectivity across our markets. This will provide interconnectivity across countries, as well as provide redundancies to the submarine cables, meaning that we'll have less disruptions to our services so that we are able to bring faster and more efficient digital transformations in our markets. Now, if we bring women into it, we know that in Africa, for example, we have about half of the population is really women. And in Africa, we believe that once we empower a woman, we also empower families, and at the end of the day, we empower communities. By bringing digital transformation into the hands of women, it means that we are increasing the opportunities to access products, to access services, and to be economically okay. We don't have to always, cry for help when we can also be the help and the leading light into our communities. So I believe this is where we are going, and that's why we are working together, collaborating with regulators, with the government, and with the vendors, so that we are able to bring the technology into the hands of the people of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. It is a partnership for sure with the regulator and vendors, not something we can do on our own. Yeah. Jamal, to complement what Sylvia said from an operator point of view, what is your vision when it comes to digital transformation?
Well, since we're in Dubai, our vision is to be the best digital telco there is, because this is Dubai. Just being okay is not good enough. And what do I mean by digital telco? I mean attracting the best talent in the digital space, and building an experience, a customer experience that will wow our customers every time they interact with us, be it to buy our services or be it to use the technology that we have and that we offer. The vision is to keep the customer in mind and build something that will wow them. And using technology as an enabler to that. The technology is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself.
Thank you, Jamal. So I hear commonalities. I mean, we need inclusiveness and we need adequate number of resources, whether male or women, to push the digital transformation journey. And I would like to invite Dr. Linda for the next question. From a regulatory and policy point of view, what do you believe is the role of women as ICT leaders in shaping digital economies?
Thank you, Rana, for your question. In fact, I would look at it from a holistic perspective related to the development in general. Going back to the role of women in development, I would like to mention three leading leaders for leading organizations in terms of development. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi, and the Secretary General of the UNCTAD, Ms. Rebecca Greenspan, and the Executive Director of ITC, the Trade and International Business Development. Well, I believe that having women on top of these organizations is really important in giving the women the role in leading the development strategies worldwide, where ICT comes at the heart. We explained yesterday and today the importance of the ICT sector in driving the economic growth, and that's how I believe putting women in such leadership positions will contribute to the development in general and to the ICT sector and digital economy in specific.
Thank you, Nadine. You mentioned great role models. I mean, that's fantastic. And to complement what Nadine said, Dr. Atsuko, from a regulatory and policy point of view, what is the role of women as ICT leader to push digital economies?
Thank you. It's a very important question. I think an enabling policy and regulation can really encourage, number one, the uptake of girls and young women, perhaps in pursuing STEM and ICT career. If, let's say, there are no programs as such in the university and there is no funding, perhaps they will not pursue, they will do something else. And additionally, if there are more opportunities to become entrepreneurs and to get funding to test their ideas and solutions and innovations and scale up later on to become an ICT leaders, I think these will be perhaps a big push for many of them to decide, pursue. I think these are all policy influenced actions in a country, and I hope that these pieces are in place to really encourage and to make sure that they will not stumble along the way. And I want to see more of them all over the world.
Thank you, Doctor. Nadine, as an educator, why do you believe gender inclusion is important to drive digital transformation?
So thank you, Rana, for your question. And thank you, Mr. Tony, for this special panel.
It is special.
And I think everyone is interested, so maybe we got the highest audience today at our panel, which is a good reflection of this hot topic.
Women are always interesting.
Exactly. So as we're talking about digital transformation, inclusion is part of, women inclusion is part of this digital transformation. So we cannot move forward to the digital world and achieve the digital future without the inclusion of women. So they will play a vital role in this inclusion. And in education, we are all aiming to empower women, especially girls, especially students, through programs which will give them more mentorship. In fact, as an academic, I was surprised to see that the number of authors, for example, taking an example, the enabling technologies like artificial intelligence, you can see that the ladies or the women writing papers on artificial intelligence account for only 13% of total published paper.
Wow.
And again, only 18% of authors are publishing in AI and leading journals. So this will show that we really need diversity and inclusion, and we really need to have program on the track to empower women. So this is from academia point of view and the industry point of view. I think Mrs. Maha, who just gave a talk now as VP of Zain, she's really a kind of role model to every Saudi girls. I salute her. I don't know where she's sitting, but she's really a very good role model for every girl in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Nadine. So this question I would like to address to the three ladies in the corporate world. Maybe we'll start with Jamal.
Yes.
What value do you believe women bring to the table?
Wow. Well, women are very different from men. It's just biological. And when I look at the team, my team, when I want to build a team to lead digital transformation, it's always a good idea, it's just smart business practice, to have a complement of skills. Women are generally, and no offense to any of the men, I'm sure but more nurturing by nature, more less ego-prone, so more collaborative. We are just a little more organized because at home and in life we have to be. And so there are some skills that women have that make them exceptional in certain areas in certain fields. One of the things, though, that I think people underestimate with women, and that has been my experience, is our strength in strategy. I remember when I started my career, one of the things early on, nobody tells me that today, but when I started, you say, you know, in my performance objective, you need to be more strategic. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered what that meant. And of course, as I moved up and learned more, I realized that as women, we are extremely strategic. It's just that we are strategic in certain things that, from a man's point of view, may not be important because we don't show it overtly, and we don't claim, you know, yes, what we do, and we don't toot our own horn, and we just quietly do our thing, and we expect somebody to come and tell us what a great job we're doing. Men don't do that. Mm-hmm. Men don't do that. So I think women are very strategic in a subtle way, and a great addition to any team. And when you think in the world, we're 50% of the population. So any business, you're catering to both men and women. And so if you don't have the right balance in your organization, then who's speaking for all those women? And today, women are consumers. They're also very well paid. They have the money. They have the, you know. So as a business, it's just business smart to make sure you have enough women in your organization that are bringing that female perspective to help you, to help the company grow and target the female market.
Thank you, Jamal. Sylvia, from an operator and again corporate point of view, what value do you believe women bring to the table?
Thank you, Rana. So some of the things as I see from our organization is that women bring different thought leadership into the organization. In Africa, there's a saying that goes, if you've only eaten your mother's food or you haven't traveled out of the village, you'll think that your mother's food is the best. I think the same case applies to thought leadership. Women will bring a different perspective. Again, as she said, we are consumers, and so that as women, we are also able to custom make products that speak to the needs of women. Secondly, given that women, naturally, we are really nurturers, I see the value that women bring in this regard is they are able to bring teams together. They are able to to collaborate better and resolve conflicts and be able to brainstorm better and be able to come up with a solution quickly and in a structured manner. I believe in the corporate world, this is some of the things I've seen in my own case, women able to bring to the table.
Spot on. Thank you, Sylvia. May, from a vendor point of view, and of course corporate, what value do you believe women bring to the table?
I would say there are a number of things. So of course, the leadership, the knowledge, experience, which is generally shared by lots of men to become leaders, so we women equally can provide. In addition to that, particularly in the digital transformation topic we're talking about, there's one key indicator is about the digital gap. Particularly you think about the world population, 50% are about the women. If you don't have women sitting in the position in the digital transformation to lead this, you perhaps easily to meet a lot of the important things that are needed for the women. Like lots of the ladies mentioned early on, you design the windows, the mirrors in the bathroom, not necessarily suited for ladies. Small things like that, I think women can contribute a lot from the female perspective. The second thing I would say is that as the leadership with women's characters, there's more emphasis, which is quite important in the organization to group people together, to gel the team together. So this is, in lots of the cases, how to say, sorry, gentlemen, we women can do better. But more important, I think, is as female leaders, they certainly will provide the diversity in the senior leadership team, where the diversity is being proved, that can seriously improve the productivity in the company. So this is a part as every single company, that doesn't matter, it's a vendor, operators, regulators should seriously think about. So, to getting more women into the organization to ensure the gender balance in the team and also the diversity inclusion in the team. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies, for your valuable feedback, which gives me the perfect segue to address the elephant in the room. And I'll start with you, Dr. Atsuko. Very difficult question. When it comes to gender inclusiveness, do you believe we're a truly inclusive ICT sector?
At the moment, as we discussed in the past sessions, I think we can see a lot of gaps in terms of the number of users and the users in terms of having access to the internet, devices, capacity, and opportunities. So there's a lot we can do, but if you think about what the digital inclusion can bring, especially if, let's say, man and woman were given the equal opportunities and can thrive based on the true potentials of each individual, I think that is possible, and we are seeing some good examples in countries. For example, if I can cite an example of Thailand, where I am based. There is an amazing initiative called Net Pracharat, which connects each village. And the government has been implementing this connectivity initiative for the past 5 or 6 years. And they have achieved. And at the same time, it's not only the connectivity, but they mobilize the volunteers of the youth to support the community members to do something meaningful. So ITU, in fact, is conducting an assessment of who's using it, what kind of benefit it is bringing. And we found out that farmers, in fact, appreciated that initiative most. And out of all the farmers, it was rice farmers. Now, if you ask me why rice farmers and not other farmers, I don't know. Perhaps we should investigate more. But just to come back to the point, I think this initiative was so unique and successful, partly perhaps due to the fact that the regulator and ministry are very gender balanced. They must have taken into account different views, and people asked good questions, and good ideas came. And of course, I cannot pinpoint that there's a correlation or causal relationship between them, but I think in my mind, it is one of the good examples of women, perhaps and men, contributing to this wonderful initiative, which is contributing to society. And yes, to answer your question, sorry, it was a very long answer. I think digital inclusion is possible, and I think in the way which may not be documented well enough, women has a significant role to play.
Thank you, Doctor. May, I know you worked in different countries within the region. From a vendor point of view, do you feel we as a sector is truly inclusive at this moment of time?
I would say from inclusive, if we're talking about all gender, male or female, they probably have done better. But surely from the gender balance wise, the diversity is still room for improvement. But we have seen that for the last few years the change is evident, and particularly nowadays when I travel in Kuwait, in Saudi, in Qatar, in UAE, you see more female leaders I can talk to in the different vendor teams and operators and regulators. So it's all positive things happening. But of course, there's still gap in all aspects, and particularly I emphasize this again, is able to find the female ICT talents. That's the areas I think we can work together to improve, is that is changing the mentalities that encourage girls to taking interest in the course. But also, when the girls are maybe don't have any ICT background, it's not really hard things to gain the knowledge of that, is encourage people already in the industry interested in ICT, doing different jobs, to take on the training, to take on the course, and to start thinking about the tech part of that. So that would be great improvement to ensure the diversity. Yeah.
Thank you, May. Sylvia, from an operator, I know being exposed to a different market as well, do you believe that we manage as a sector to achieve inclusivity?
I would say from MTN GlobalConnect, we've done quite a bit, but there's still a lot to be done. For example, 2 years ago, we were only at about 29% female representation in the workforce. Today, as at end of September, we were at about 44%, against an average of about 30 to 35% in the telco industry. So we are doing something to encourage female representation and inclusivity. However, that said, I truly believe that digital inclusivity, we need to do much more. And I believe without women economic empowerment, we may never really achieve it. Only very few women, for example, in the low and middle income countries are able to own a smartphone. A smartphone is our first real interaction with digital resources and digital transformation, really. Without that smartphone, we'll never really achieve it. So ours is to work together as operators, again, and I said as governments, to bring the means to empower women economically so that they are able to be able to really utilize the digital resources available to them, so that they're also able to bring this down to their families and the youth. As we said, youth really make up a large percentage of the population in Africa, so that also as they grow, they are ICT enabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Jamal, also being an operator and exposed to the telecom market, I know in North America and here in the region, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. But from your point of view, what are the critical changes that we need to make in order to address gender balance issues?
Well, it's different areas that we have to make those changes. We could say, for example, within a company, to go and attract female talent, nurture that talent, and help that talent grow within the firm.
Exactly.
But that's not enough, because first you need to find that talent, and which means women, it starts in the education. We need to facilitate how we educate and entice and encourage women to go into the ICT field. And even before education, it's at home as well. For women to think that, you know what, technology is an area that I can grow in, I can prosper, I can have a career in. It's not a male-dominated field. It's not a frightening area. And it's not, by the way, only for engineers or computer technical people. ICT is, business analysts, project managers, leaders, and it's not just technical. And so I think we need to start at home as parents when we're treating our daughters and teaching our sons that for a woman, anything is possible. And then the education system, how we teach the boys and what we teach the girls, that again, it's equal. And then when we go into the workforce, and every company has a responsibility to have a fair way of hiring and recruiting and promoting. As a woman, I never want to be hired because I'm a woman. I don't want to be one of those statistics that companies go and hire because they have to meet a quota. That would be extremely insulting to me. I want to be hired because I am the best person for the job.
For sure.
And so what that means is that within companies, don't not hire me because I'm a woman. Give me a fair chance to prove myself. And if I am the best person in the job, then I should be able to have that. And I find that in a lot of cases, the door is closed, you're not even let in the door because you're a woman. And that's what we need to change.
Thank you. And I like, Jamal, how you emphasize the importance of education, which takes me straight to Nadine as an educator. What do you believe are the most critical changes that we need to apply in order to address any gender balance gap we have in the sector?
Yes, we should address this balance gap as soon as possible, because the digital transformation is going on. No one will wait for us. Women should be on board as soon as possible. And as Jamal said, we should have some kind of programs, leadership programs. Hiring should not be biased. Recruiting should not be biased. We should go in this way first. And then we should empower women. So in education, as I said before, we are really doing great in this direction. And for the companies, for the industry, it's not only about checking the box and saying that, okay, we are empowering women and we're doing what we should do. It's really about measuring matrix, about monitoring. This issue, it needs time. It will not be done all of a sudden. So it needs really monitoring, and it needs a list of what we should do, what we should not do, okay? And at the end, by 2030, we hope that by the metaverse, which will come, we hope that women will be ready to this digital age, digital period, okay, which is coming on, because they will use the metaverse, okay? But till now, they are behind the scenes. No, we want women to show and to really contribute to this digital progress.
Thank you, Nadine. And on a positive note, to Dr. Linda, who's doing something right? I mean, which country, which company did really well when it comes to gender balance, and what did they do?
Thank you for your question. Well, it's a mix of both, If I look at it at the macro level, I would say it's the responsibility of the government. First of all, adhering to the SDGs, SDG 5 specifically, where there is a commitment and there are measuring targets where countries have to report on this and to engage gender equality in their strategies and in their laws and regulations and policies. If we look at it from a company perspective or the private sector has to be aware, I believe, by now, the importance of having this equality in gender in the workplace for several reasons. Most of them we mentioned, we replied to them in the question before. And if I may add, it could be also related to the soft skills that they bring to the table. And it's also related to how organized they are and their diplomatic skills. You know that dealing with kids is something very important. Sure. So and this needs patience, and women also bring patience also.
100%. So I hear consensus that we all would like to see more women as leaders, hopefully future CIOs and CTOs. But in order to achieve this, we need more women entering or choosing STEM programs to start with. I remember when I went to university in North America just a couple of years ago, more like a couple of decades ago. It was 8% and it did not improve much. Actually, I was sad to see actually the numbers becoming worse. However, in UAE, the number is really high. And actually, in some specialties, the number of women surpasses men. So I would like to get a pulse check. Dr. Atsuko, again, the difficult question to you, since you're exposed to many statistics. Do you believe we have a shortage in the required skill set entering the ICT industry? And if yes, how can we address this shortage?
I think this is an excellent question. Thank you. Of course, I'm sure some of the participants are already suffering from this shortage of specific and perhaps, the skills. For example, we have reported shortages of experts in cybersecurity, data science, and so forth. These are the areas which are most cited. And I believe that should be linked to this gender digital gap. And I hope that more girls and young women will see that as an opportunity. And I believe that, just like you said, in some countries, girls surpass in terms of the education outcomes in STEM area.
Yes.
And the same in Thailand, that when we organized this Girls in ICT Day, you saw the video earlier. We had a request specific from the ministry and regulators that please organize Boys in ICT Day, because girls do well in education. Of course, the issue is that doesn't translate into the number of ICT leaders who are female. So there is definitely a filter, perhaps in society or psychology or confidence, somewhere in between. But I think that if, let's say, there are more and more girls and young women going into the STEM, and then that will go straight to ICT sectors, and perhaps that will increase the number of ICT leaders, that will definitely solve the issue of the shortfall of digital skills, basic as well as more advanced.
Spot on. Thank you, Doctor. And May, from your point of view, I know you're exposed as well to the local region. Do you feel from a vendor point of view you have issues in finding the right skill set to do the job, and when it comes to women's skill set?
Well, certainly in my experience working through the ICT industry in the different sectors, the different countries, that seems to be the issue when recruiting ladies into the company in this STEM kind of subjects. I think a lot of these ladies already said about that. The issues is in the family, whether that being encouraged, And in the school, that's where it be encouraged, where women have the confidence to participate. In addition to that, although it's changing now in the company, whether they select the certain job roles or leadership roles is more gender bias. Having said that, the latter has kind of improved a lot through the last 5 or 6 years, which UAE, for example, already issued the regulation to stop such things happen. The other things, of course, all these gaps need to be bridged, but I also wanted to raise the issues about this, not to the vendors, it's more about the society, the media, how they present the models. Because if you look at the top, the heavily promoted, the tech leaders, at the moment, all female, or all males, you know, you say Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or whoever that bald-headed guy, I can't remember the name, AWS guy, Jeff Bezos. We don't see a lot of heavy promotion of female ICT leaders models. Instead, we see more reality stars. Girls become a reality star, become rich fast. No offense to this, you know, take also to achieve that. But as a media, whether you should be providing more good example, female leaders in STEM, and they encourage the girls can look up at them, so actually, I can become somebody important to the society, become an ICT leader, become a leader in the STEM kind of subject and fields. And rather than being a glamorous model. Well, no offense to that, it's still a way of making the life. But we need to address that kind of balance from all aspects to bridge the gap. Yeah.
Thank you, May. Jamal, for you, I would like to change the flavor of the question.
Okay.
Do you believe that women are shying away from applying to ICT roles? Are you having a problem finding enough women expressing interest?
The number of applicants compared to men, yeah, it's not proportionate, right? But I don't know if it's because they're shying away from it or it's because it's not an area of interest to women. I don't know if it's because there's qualified women, but they just don't feel they have a chance, and therefore they're applying in other fields or shying away from applying, or because that's not an area of interest. Because to be honest, this field is not an easy field to be in. There are sacrifices to be made. As a woman, I've spent the last 30 years of my career in this field. I didn't graduate or study this. I studied English literature and political science, nothing to do with technology whatsoever. I just happened to be, for the last 30 years, in this field, leading multi-million-dollar, transformation programs. But it takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of being away from your family, working nights, working weekends, being on the road. And so, it's not an easy career path to pursue if you want to move up in it. If you want to do something, and you're okay with it as a job, which is very good, which is okay, that's fine. But if you're ambitious and you want to really move up the ladder and move up the chain of, command, then unfortunately, today, as a woman, I have to think like a man. And I have to live like a man. What I mean by that is I'm married, I have kids, I have a family, but guess what? Like a man, when the call comes, I have to be on a customer site, I pack and I go. And so my children had to grow up without a mother who's at home all the time. And that's a choice I made, and I will make it again. But it's not a field necessarily for every woman. If she wants to pursue it, it means there's a price to pay and there are sacrifices to make, and it's a choice you have to make consciously.
Okay, thank you, Jamal. Linda, just to build on what Jamal said, what challenges did you face, as an ICT leader? and that you believe could prevent or could be an obstacle for others to jump on this career path?
That's interesting. Actually, the challenge is not just per se related to the ICT sector. I believe it's the challenge for each and every woman of us. When you are a woman, you have a family, you have kids, and you have your career, and you have to be present, especially with the kids. And in my case, I believe in continuous learning, so I continued and pursued my degrees while I'm holding this responsibility. So I did 2 master's degrees and a PhD while having 2 little kids. And by the way, now my kids are grown-ups, I would say. They grow. Marianne is 17 and Talia is 15.
God bless.
And, well, the challenge, as I mentioned, it's related in general to myself being a woman. And in my case, I was advisor to the Minister of Economy and Trade. I worked with 12 ministers, and I had to be present all the time, present not only physically, but mentally. And this was really a challenge to me, to take care of everything and be present everywhere I go. But as Jamal mentioned, this was my choice. And if I go back to my early stages where I started my work, I will do the same.
I like how you and Jamal both said you will go back and do exactly the same.
I would do the same. My kids are all grown now. It's okay. No regrets at all.
Yes, no, I would do the same. So mainly, that's it from myself.
So hold that thought, because I'm going to come back to both of you for a follow-up question.
Yeah.
May, I'm very curious as well to know, because as well you're from a vendor side, always traveling. So what are the greatest challenges you face that you feel might be an obstacle for women to pursue senior roles in the future?
I more look at the working environment, although between the people, I worked for a European company and I'm working for Huawei, Chinese company. People, the way it's being treated, you feel is a lesser kind of obstacle, but lots of the time it's a bloody working environment, the small things. Giving examples, number of years ago, this is, long time ago when I first deployed the 2G network in Dubai, I was the only female engineer, which mixed with 50 other men in a warehouse. That's where my office is. And that's only one toilet shared between me and the 50 other men. So it's kind of small, trivial things that sometimes you feel like not kind of irritating, but you are forgotten in your working environment. I think, by having more and more ladies in the leadership position, hopefully can address small things and make people, girls certainly, coming to the ICT company feel like this is a safe, comfortable environment. Because sometimes this creature comforts in the working environment, I find it's kind of important for me, make us feel like it's welcome, included, and that certainly will encourage lots of the girls participate in the working environment more. Of course, in terms of this, recruiting challenges, obstacles, I think they will take time to overall address that, but some of the small things now, if we recognize the importance of diversity, we can actually correct that pretty quickly.
Thank you, May. Dr. Atsuko, as well, you traveled a lot, you had to do relocation, the family had to relocate multiple times. So I would like to know what challenges that you face you feel might be an obstacle for women to grow in this sector.
Thank you. It's a very real question and challenges that all of us face. And of course, as I speak, I'm away from home. I would say that my family is used to it by now. But, in a very twisted way, the internet really helps, because I feel that I'm constantly in touch with them through WhatsApp. And just like I'm in the office in Bangkok, So I believe that the connectivity definitely helps us. But at the same time, I just want to twist the question a little bit differently.
Good.
Because, of course, we are all away from home, and so are the participants who are male.
Yep.
Right? So I think, it's not only women who are away from families and we cannot take care of them, but I think men must be feeling the same way.
Yeah.
So I think the question is how we can strike the balance that we can compete for, not based on the category of men and women, but perhaps something else, such as good ideas. And I think perhaps that shift can really, put us into a strategic position. And of course, in order to achieve the gender equality or gender inclusive transformation, we need to work with men, and we need to make sure that men are included as well. So I hope that this can trigger questions in your mind and in our mind, that how best we can achieve this balance, because this travel and away from home applies to all of us.
Thank you for inspiring my following question. So I promise I'm going to come back to you, Nadine. What has helped you reach where you are?
In fact, many things. First of all, the confidence and the dream. You're looking for a dream, you want to achieve, you want to be an active part of the society. However, I faced many challenges on my way to achieving my dreams or doing, let's say, my PhD. Even when I did my engineering degree, all our professors were men. The supervisor of my thesis was a man, and my PhD thesis again was a man.
I can relate.
The dean, everyone we dealt with were men. So the challenge was there that you are going into a world of man, and the media help to show that, yes, man is on the top of tech positions. So these kinds of stereotypes were there, and we were really fighting. And even whenever you finish your degree and you get a position, you should keep on fighting just to prove yourself. And this is part of this imbalance which we are facing. So it's a continuous, let's say, fight, peaceful fight, in order to be part of this technology or the ICT world. And every, I think, woman should be driven by her dreams and her confidence at the end of the day.
Thank you, Nadine. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Jamal, I told you hold that thought because you described some of the challenges, but please share with us what has helped you reach where you are today.
I think what helped me is a hunger to be better, to be more. I come from very humble beginnings, Nothing was given to me, but I always felt that, if I push myself and if I take over and take control of my destiny and my path and not listen to what others are telling me I can or can't do, should or shouldn't do, how a woman should behave and what a woman's role is in society and in life, that I will achieve what I want. And I wanted more for myself. I wanted more for my family. Before I even had a family, I knew that I wanted to give my children a better life than what I have or had. Even though I'm grateful, everything, is good. And that was all I saw. That was all I saw. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't see anything on the side, left or right. I had a goal. I had a vision. And I told myself, I think at the age of 12, I'm CEO of my life.
I like that.
I'm CEO of my life. I don't care what title anybody gives me. I don't care what role on paper in an HR department I'm told and I'm given. I am CEO of my life. I will run my life the way I want to run it. I have a vision. I have a strategy how I'm going to achieve it. And alhamdulillah, I'm here.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for your honesty. I just thought of a value. Women are always honest. So you can count on their honesty, which is an extremely valuable, thing to have in the corporation, right? Linda, I asked you as well to hold that thought because I was going to come back to you. What has helped you reach where you are? I know we discussed the challenges, but what has helped you reach where you are today?
Well, actually, first of all, it was the commitment. The commitment to my work, to my career life, the commitment for being a role model for my daughters and a role model for my students. And also the commitment to my country. I assumed different tasks within the same. I was with an institution. I worked with the Ministry of Economy and Trade for a tenure. However, I used to be seconded to help other ministries, even the Prime Minister's office. So whenever I have a call related to whatever I know and I feel like I can contribute, I used to be driven by my ambition and by my love to make a difference to whatever policies we have in the country. Yeah.
All the motivation is to have, it seems, a bigger purpose, right? So this is very inspiring. May, you shared with us some of the challenges. What helped you achieve what you have achieved today?
I think when I look at the challenges in my tech field, is being able to kind of get people, particularly my peers, my seniors, majority managers, to actually trust me, having that to trust and having that confidence in me. I think situation has improved quite a lot the last few years. What really drives me to going forward, so one part is, as a lot of ladies say, is a commitment and don't want to let people down. And also is a conscientiousness. So I'm conscious about if I don't do well, I've been even more proved that their kind of hypothesis is right. No, she's too weak, she's not good, she's too emotional, she's too lazy. Not clever enough to do the job. So that is actually driving me more forward in the past. But nowadays, I'm more enjoying is actually the work of being able to learn something new and also passing on my experience to the boys and girls who come in the ICT business and to learn from my mistake and my experience and to continue to cultivate the younger people to participate in this beautiful, transformation is happening. I did like to say, although myself is something I wanted to say early on, for us to sit here, women in ICT, we only heard what women think about ICT. Maybe next time when we have same topic, we invite Tony to come here, like the men to talk about women in ICT. So what they think, how they feel,
great idea,
and what you see need to be done.
Action. Action for you, Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you, May. So I'm going to twist the question a little bit. And Sylvia, what do you feel when women in the workforce, what are the most common misconceptions and how can we combat these misconceptions? Because I'm sure whatever the men are going to say are misconceptions, right?
So I would look at it differently, not only at the workforce, it's cultural. Sometimes how we've been viewed, how we view ourselves, what we've grown being molded to. Sometimes learning, a lot of learning happens outside the classroom. So the modeling, the attitudes that we have towards technology, for example, all this have a way of being, of sinking in even without knowing it. The attitudes we have, for example, towards technology that, a woman cannot do this, a woman cannot do this. For example, what Dr. Lee was saying, that she was working in a warehouse, No, this woman cannot do this, you should not go maybe to a certain site in a remote place, all these attitudes. So this is one thing that stops us from being at the front. And then we start believing and we start start having self-imposed limits in our minds.
Yes.
That, this is what the society thinks, and probably, yeah, they're right. I cannot do it. So our self-imposed limits, we need to dream bigger. We say that our minds can only go, our actions can only go as far as our minds can go. So that's one of it. And the other one, we'll need to have mentorship programs and programs that accelerate the readiness of women to take up these leadership positions. With this in place, it will accelerate women taking up more leadership roles in organizations, not only in the ICT, and of course across the industries. Yeah.
Thank you, very inspiring. Nadine, you're very close to the students. So from your opinion, what are the most common misconceptions and how can we address them?
Yes, so unfortunately, the students, when they come to ICT major, they feel that they are weak in math, they cannot cope with this major, it will be difficult for them. So that's why at the university, you find that less than the half of the class is girls and the rest is boys. And even as PhD holders, you find that, again, more are boys than girls. So the socio-cultural mindset is like this. So, and on our way for women, for gender balance, we should consider this. So at the university, girls are now feeling more involved since they are using the technology. They got more confidence. They are part of this world, part of the use cases which are all around. So they got more confidence and they are really dreaming high. And when they see, let's say, professors which are women, so they got more encouraged to go through this field till the end. So misconceptions are, misinterpretations are there, but we are always available to encourage them and to let them have more confidence in what they are doing and let them break the floor and just break all barriers and go ahead in ICT.
Thank you. I mean, Jamal, from a corporate point of view, I'm sure I can relate. I mean, from a personal experience, again, 20 plus years ago when I interviewed for my first role, was at Nortel, and I was interviewing to be a DMS switch lab engineer, and they're like, no, I don't feel a woman in the lab. I mean, it was the first. At the end, I got the job, but they were very, very nervous, right? So do you feel in a corporate culture, there's still a stereotype of what women should or shouldn't do?
I think, yeah, there still is, but I feel it's a lot less than what it used to be. Thank God for that. And maybe to a certain extent, there will always be a little bit of that for maybe a few more generations. But it's definitely, I feel it's less and less. When I started my career, it was the same. I'd be the only woman in the room.
Yes.
100 men, and I'm the only woman. I'm like, what am I doing here? But it's less and less. And I think here, actually, I was very surprised in Dubai specifically, to be honest. I came here in April. I had no idea what to expect. I grew up in Canada. I've worked, in North America most of my life. Yes. And when I had the opportunity to come to do, I didn't know what to expect as a woman, right? And you hear all these things like the Middle East, and you're going to come and you're going to work, and as a woman, are you going to have the opportunities and the freedom?
Of course.
I was so pleasantly surprised about how welcomed I felt, how empowered I felt, how diverse the team is. And so it was very encouraging and refreshing to see. Certainly shattered all my preconceptions, if you will, or my, and it motivated me to stay and help keep that momentum and that push to have more women, not because they're women, but because they are the right people to do the work that needs to get done, and they will bring that balance of perspective in the workforce.
Thank you, Jamal. Linda, I feel for you, I mean, it's even worse, right? So you're entering the ICT, which is already women are a minority, and from a regulatory and policymaker, as well as not a very traditional career path. So in your opinion, do you feel there's a stereotype of what women should and shouldn't do?
Well, actually, I believe maybe it's kind of easier for regulators because to a certain extent, we have, I don't want to say balance, but in the regulators or the law-related studies, there are now plenty of women who's taking this step. However, the challenge is at the level of the decision-making and the policy makers. Well, I'm as drafter for laws and regulations. I have my team with me. We work. Then we have to raise this to a higher level, let's say to the minister, and then after the minister, it goes to the Council of Ministers, then it goes to the Parliament. And here comes the challenge. It's dominant by, if we're going to talk about the gender, it's dominant by men. But when I defend my case, I wear the hat of a lawyer, and I don't think about the gender here, because if you go to the table having your thoughts, your knowledge, and your presence is really important to be ready and to be present. And here, I believe that it's like kind of it's easy for you to when you have you believe in yourself, you have the self-confidence to prove your point, while convincing the upper management, whatever it is, by your point of view. So in terms of regulations, I believe that because it's made at the level of the Parliament or the Council of Ministers or even the minister himself, when it comes to ministerial decisions, it's about your personality, how to prove yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. So obviously the government has a big role to play in pushing the gender balance agenda. And in the UAE, I think they are the #1 country amongst the Arab countries in pushing this agenda. They're definitely leading by example, and they have the highest number of lady minister. So the question for you, Dr. Atsuko, do you believe that government policies do help in improving the numbers?
Absolutely. And of course, the number of female decision makers is definitely a key element. Mm-hmm. If I can cite the example of the UN, it's of course public sector, and that may be a very good analogy. Under the leadership of the current Secretary General of the UN, the UN has started this gender parity program. So a few years ago, he already achieved the gender parity 50-50 at the senior level management of the UN appointments. Mm-hmm. And we were all very excited and very proud. And I think that set the tone mm-hmm. to the recruitment and the management of staff down from there. And now I believe there is a mind shift to encouraging more female staff members where the gender parity wasn't achieved, and people are more conscious of the fact that some organizations are better than others. So we have a scorecard of which UN agencies are doing better, and that shows that where women feel more comfortable working. So I think there are many tools that the government or organizations can institute to really encourage and trigger the mindset. But another perhaps important aspect is the social recognition. If, let's say, a company which does extremely well with the gender equality, they should be recognized mm-hmm. internationally and nationally.
Yes.
Wouldn't that encourage more of these good practices all across. So if, let's say, it's linked to some award or investment or financing, or, people appreciate this company, I hope that that will perhaps cascade into more actions, because they will see positive externalities of gender parity.
Well, Tony, you're leading by example by giving an award for companies in ICT with high achievement.
Diversity inclusion.
Yes. So thank you for that. I will now ask Linda and Nadine the same question. When it comes to policy, Linda, and regulations, do you feel that it makes a difference?
Yes, absolutely. Because, in fact, the policies and regulations at the level of laws and regulations, if I may say, and government's commitments. I mentioned before the SDGs and the commitments of countries to SDG goal number 5. And this has to be spread across all laws and regulations. So when it comes to strategies, they should have this component which takes into consideration the goal number 5. And since the government sets the rules and regulations, then the private sector and all the society, they apply this. And then comes the statistics and how the country does in terms of adopting the SDGs and the improvement in terms of their policies and regulations.
Thank you. Nadine, I know, for example, some of the top business schools, in order to attract more women into MBA program, had a policy that if a man and a woman, equally qualified, of course, apply, they have to take the women into the program in order to increase or enhance the numbers. Do you feel these kind of policies make a difference?
Yes, sure. So policies are there to make a difference, and we really need to go to the end with the policies and regulation. In addition to joint efforts, we cannot only rely on policies and regulation, but on every company's leadership and management. They should only reconsider the gender balance to move forward in the ICT sector.
Thank you. Jamal, I know you expressed earlier that you don't like quotas, but do you feel any kind of KPI should be at all imposed on leaders to try to comply with, or?
Look, I think because of where we are, and there's such a big gap right now, I think a quota is a start, right?
Yeah.
To kind of keep it front and center in organizations' minds that we need to do better. But at some point, I hope that it's not the quota that's going to drive organizations to hire more women, promote more women, nurture more women. It's the realization that it just makes good business sense at the end of the day.
Thank you, Jamal. And May, from a vendor corporate point of view, did you, from your background, did you impose any quota? Do you feel that the quota or setting a KPI would help?
I think anything like that, enforce the policy as it says, to start with, it seems to be way too, on the paper, looks good. But personally, I do conscious about such a quota actually have an opposite effect. So as the lady just said, mentioned early on, you come out as a lady being selected because you're a lady, rather than your skill set, your experience with the general traits to prove you can be a leader, you can be a good engineer in the ICT company. So it's a kind of tricky questions. I wouldn't have a straight answer to that. But what I think more important is from the more realistic KPI to measure how well the company performed with the gender, in terms of gender diversity and the balance in that perspective. The hardcore quota perhaps will have the opposite effect sometimes. But equally, I do recognize there's a huge gap to bridge at the moment. And if you enforce some of the quota, as currently is still lack of talent pools you can select, you may become issues. So for the sake of ticking box, you recruited the wrong people and let out the bright young gentleman out of the good position.
Thank you, May. So now we're going to move to closing remarks. What I would like you, when you reflect back at your journey, what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self, and what advice do you have for future leaders or women entering the ICT sector? So I'll start with you, Dr. Atsuko.
Thank you. I would say that we have to think big, and we have to dream big. Thinking back, of course, when I started my career, this job didn't exist, ICT for development, and people didn't know about internet. That's the fact. And there is a chance that there is some disruptive technology next year, and the whole new industry may come up. So I think we should be part of that journey. Perhaps we can lead that journey. So I think we should think big and be confident.
Think big and be confident. Thank you. May.
I would say myself, when I was 25, that was, oh God, a quarter century ago. Be strong, trust yourself, and perhaps be more vocal. Because at the time, there are lots of concerns about not being, I wasn't able to voice my concerns and my discontent. Because, that would become a troublemaker. But quite sometimes people, people do the things without realizing there's actually problems, particularly in the industry where they have far less women than men. Sometimes people just don't realize actually there's a problem. So if I have voiced that my concern be early, I'd probably be able to go to the toilet more often when I went to work. So yeah, that would be my advice. Yeah.
Thank you, May. So be strong, trust yourself, and be vocal.
Be vocal.
Be vocal, for sure.
Thank
Sylvia.
you. I'll tell my 25-year-old, believe in yourself. The sky is the limit, and you've just begun. Sometimes you look at it like time is gone, I cannot do this now, I'm too late. Begin now. Now is the time to start, and it's a good time as any. Secondly, I would say take mentors, ask for help. Everyone needs help once in a while. When you are younger, sometimes you think, I can do it all, I am superwoman. But no, take help, use mentors. There are very many people ready to help when you ask for help.
This is very important, you're right.
Yeah.
So believe in yourself and ask for help when needed. Seek mentorship, right?
Yeah.
This is very important. Linda.
Well, actually, the ladies here mentioned the most important stuff.
Yes.
Actually, first of all, be confident. And going back to the stereotypes that we talked about in the society, here comes where the young ladies have to be confident. Dream big as well, and believe in yourself, and always learn a new thing. And believe in continuous learning, because life is a learning journey, so keep learning.
Continue learning, for sure.
Yeah.
Jamal.
Oh, when I get to 25, what I will tell myself?
Love it.
Okay. I will say find something you love. Pursue a career you will absolutely enjoy and love. And then give it your 120%. And keep learning and keep perfecting your craft and perfecting what you do till you become the best at it. Because in this world, if you're just good, as a woman especially, it's not good enough, unfortunately. You have to be the best at what you do, to be sought after, and never stop learning, never stop growing, and make it a mission. Don't do anything halfway. That's what I would say.
Perfect your craft and go after it 100%. Spot on. Nadine.
So my advice to all women is to keep it up. You're doing great. And for the girls, be part of the innovation. be part of this digital world. You belong there. Just be dedicated and grab all opportunities, take risks, and the world is ahead of you.
Take risks and keep it up. Actually, I like the keep it up because I always tell them,
Yeah.
keep it up. You can slow down, but keep it up, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, ladies. It has been a real pleasure
Thank you.
to have given the honor to moderate this panel. Thank you, everyone.